August 25th. Thanks for joining me for another Outlaw Pulpit. And I'm in a series right now, 16 things I've learned over the past 16 years as being a pastor of a church here in Waupaca, Wisconsin. The church is called Radiant Fellowship, and I've been with it since its beginnings. And I wanted to share a few things because 8 or 9 years prior to that, I was a youth pastor, and I learned a lot there. But I want to speak specifically as a mentoring sort of thing to encourage other pastors and, quite honestly, people in business, managerial, whatever. And so I'm on point number 3 today, and here's the main point of today's Outlaw Pulpit. You ready for this? I know it's going to be unbelievable. If you're a person just attending a church, brace yourselves regarding your pastor. Here's the deal. Mistakes are going to be made. Oh no, how could it be? Yes, I know, right? Pastors are people. Pastors are human, and they should never, ever be placed on a podium. And so I want to say that mistakes are going to be made. Like anyone in any vocation, mistakes are going to be made. In fact, they should be expected. It's how we grow. I mean, to be honest with you, specifically outreaches that flop, ministry philosophies that fail. For me, one of the tough ones that I had to grasp onto was that concerts were not going to grow the church. I have a lot of inlets with musicians and Christian artists from back in my music buying days, and I used to think, hey, if we do some concerts, hey, we're going to grow. And that's not always the case. In fact, it was a drain on volunteer work. It was a drain on the finances. It was all these things. And, you know, quite honestly, Rick Warren, I realize some may be triggered just by that name, but get over it, be healed. He said, for every 99 things we've tried, one might have worked. And so pastors are going to make mistakes. They're going to drop the ball. Lord knows I've tried a lot of things and found this to be very true. And so, you know, I say all this because being a pastor is quite honestly no different than being an employee anywhere else. Oh, sure, the job description is different. The hours might be different. The type of work might be different. But you have things to do. I have up on my bulletin board here, right up there, my list of things to do each day throughout the week. And those are things I stick with. It was sermon prep, follow-up, touching base with people, e-newsletter, graphic stuff, website updates, all of that. And sometimes, to be honest, things fall between the cracks. And when they do that, I am always amazed in the church world how many people are like, oh, how could that happen? Well, let's turn the table here for a minute. How many times have you dropped the ball at your work? How many times have you let things go between the cracks? How many times have you been trained on something over and over again and you still didn't get it? You know, this happens with pastors sometimes. Pastors have been trained in the art of putting sermons together over and over again throughout Bible school, and yet sometimes they miss the mark. They misinterpret Scripture. They look at something a little differently. I look back on some of the sermons I gave when I was a youth pastor, and even early on as a pastor here. Wow, they stunk of legalism. They had scriptures used out of context, but it was a learning experience, just like you at your job. Things become a little bit more easy to do and more understandable when you do it enough. And so what I'm getting at here in the heart of the message here is that you have to extend grace to your pastors. You do. Because, again, as I said, mistakes should be expected. Okay, this is just how it is. And if you've been in a church long enough, you've seen them, and you move on. You carry on. You keep going, and you trust the leadership. You trust people in guiding it. Will learn from it, and sometimes they don't. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes they don't. And so when they don't learn from things, then there could be a little bit more of an issue there. But as a whole, anytime you do anything with any ministry, youth group, kids programs, senior programs, pastoring a church, mistakes are going to be making. Get over it. Here's the better approach to it. Get over it and ask how you can help them to do better next time. There we go. Because we're really good. We are really, really good at pointing out the flaws. Don't believe me? Put a church bulletin together. See how many people compliment you when everything is spot on and spelt right, punctuated right, and all that. Now, do an experiment. Maybe you're a perfectionist and every bulletin is perfect for you. Put together a bulletin that has, maybe a date off, a misspelling. They didn't use the right to, T-O, T-O-O, T-W-O. And see how fast people are willing to critique your work. It says a lot about a person when they don't compliment, but they're always willing to point out the flaws. So there you go. I realize this might be a little bit of a shorter one, actually about 5 minutes. So, but go easy on your pastor because mistakes are going to be made, and in fact, they're to be expected. Just like you, it's your job. All right. If you have any questions, send me an email, outlawpulpit@gmail.com. Hope you have a fantastic day.